We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Looks like the rain has gone.
G'day, my name is Brandon Clift and welcome to the Mankind Podcast, a very special episode because this past weekend, my team and I, a group of thoughtful, committed individuals, put on an event, the Men's Mental Health Matters event here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it was a resounding success. It far exceeded any of our expectations, and our cups are just so full from getting to experience such a powerful weekend. And a day on Saturday, 75 degrees, sunny, it couldn't have been better. And the mission behind everything that we were doing on that day was to raise awareness and deepen the conversations around boys and men's mental health. To make this possible, we had to bring together some of the best mental health-centric nonprofits in Chattanooga to be a part of this conversation. Because we understand at the Mankind Project that although we've been around 40 years, we've had 80,000 men go through our programs, we are just one option amongst countless others out there for the men and boys that need support, that need help, that need a challenge, that need an environment that can help them do their work so they can turn up as the fathers, as the husbands, as the brothers, as the sons, as the citizens that they need to be and that they know they can become. And so we got together on Saturday. We had 60 people do a mass cold plunge, which was just amazing. We had beautiful live music, and we had deep conversations and great connections made between these nonprofit partners and the general public as well, who came down. I mean, we had over 200 people come down. It was really, really special and truly amazing. And so this episode is going to be a culmination of some of the highlights from this event. You're going to hear some great live music from Rick Rushing, Sam Steadman, and In the Company of Wolves. And you're going to hear some really profound conversations, panel discussions between a group of individuals who are all playing a key role here in Chattanooga in helping fathers, helping husbands, and helping boys get the support and help that they need so that they can turn up in the best way that they can for themselves and for others. So I hope you really enjoy just seeing what is possible and hearing what is possible when thoughtful, committed individuals get together to create an impact, to create change. And we did that this past weekend. And this is the first event. This was the inaugural event. So that just goes to show what's possible in the years to come for men's mental health here in Chattanooga. Lots of love and enjoy. Alrighty, g'day and welcome to a live recording of the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove there's more than one way to be a man. Now I'm joined for this first panel discussion with two guests here. I've got James Woods and we've got Iggy Hogan here. Now, James began his journey with First Things First through Dads Making a Difference. Now, through his transformation in the program, he discovered his passion for helping other dads discover their self-worth and abilities as a father. And in 2021, James joined the First Things First team to help guide other fathers on their journeys through Dads Making a Difference. Welcome, James. And we have Iggy here. Iggy is a natural conversationalist who creates a safe space for creative citizens and humans to have true discussions about life, culture, and mental health on his podcast, Iggy's Loud Mouth. So, grateful that you're both here. Now, Iggy, you just jumped in the cold plunge. How was that?
It was mentally tough, to put it softly. But I've been looking at doing cold plunges for a while, so I had a great partner. We talked through it for 3 minutes. Good fellowship to power through that mental toughness. So it was great. I don't know if I'm gonna get in it again though. One time I knocked it out. I did what I came to do, and now I'm here.
Got the T-shirt, got the sticker.
Yeah, exactly.
Forever a nice buddy, and you never have to do it again. How
Yes,
good's
sir.
that? So I've got a question for both of you, but Iggy, I'll start with you. What was your calling to get involved in working with men and in and around conversations around mental health?
So my calling personally was more personal. Actually, It was through life. You know, I was having my own mental health journey, learning through some things about myself, dealing with some separation of relationships. And I have a podcast, so at the time, you know, we were coming out of 2020. The format of my podcast was kind of changing because of that. We weren't doing interviews as much. And so I, through my mental health journey, started seeing that there wasn't a lot of men, specifically black men, speaking about mental health. And so I started using my podcast for that, and that's where it led.
Beautiful, beautiful. And James, how about yourself? What was your calling? What got you involved?
Well, my calling was the lack thereof. I didn't know what I thought I knew about life, and so it was very tough for me growing up without my father. So my calling was to help fathers understand that we are needed in this world, and to get together and help each other understand it is possible to grow with each other. You know what I mean? And so me coming through Chattanooga, Tennessee, and not having my father in and out of jail for child support, I wanted to change. And so that's what my change came from, the lack thereof. And so I wanted to change, and here I am.
Now, you're both fathers, so I want to ask you, James, first, what were the messages that you took on growing up about what it meant to be a father?
The message that I got was that we don't supposed to be there. That was the message that I got sometimes, that we wasn't supposed to be there. So years later, being a single parent household and seeing the structure that I didn't get from my father, that's what I knew I wanted to give to my kids, was structure. And so that it fueled my fire for my journey from just transitioning from being in a fatherless situation to being with my wife now, currently being together almost 20 years. And so just changing the narrative and changing the mindset of my family. Once I change my mindset, my generational change is going to change for me as well.
Beautiful, beautiful, mate. Iggy, how about yourself? What were the messages you took on growing up about?
So my messages have changed as I've gotten older. Initially, with my dad just having a role of a father, I have the opposite, where I had a role of a father in my life. But when I became an adult, I found out that father was not by blood. So my father that birthed me was not in my life. So it changed how I view fatherhood. A lot of times you see fatherhood like you have the child, you're supposed to be there. That was my mentality because that's what I saw. And even with my dad, there wasn't an openness to discuss things. It was like, I'm the dad, you're the son. That's the kind of role you have. I never really saw much of like outside of just that role. I never really saw any conflicts. I never saw my parents argue in person, but I know they was dealing with stuff and stuff like that. So that role itself, that's what I pulled from. But then as I got older and learned about the fatherhood that he gave me, knowing that I wasn't really his son, by birth, but I was his son by love, it changed how I view fatherhood in general. So that's what I pulled from it.
Mate, so quite a remarkable journey for both of you in fatherhood. I want to ask you, and I'll ask you, Iggy, first, what are some of the obstacles that you've experienced or seen for black men and boys to engage in conversations around mental health?
Man, I saw that question, and it's funny. I saw that question, and I know I'm trying to. My podcast is like pop culture references too, and I listen to hip hop, and I don't know if you guys are aware of the whole rap beef that's going on right now with Kendrick Lamar and Drake. So there was a video of Kendrick Lamar yesterday where he was talking about, he went to Africa, and in the album he just released, the first thing he says his favorite thing in it is that real dudes don't go to therapy. He said, and that was stuck with him the most because that's what you're taught. You know what I mean? That's kind of like what we're taught. We're just kind of either you deal with it right then or you don't deal with it at all. You know what I mean? As we come up and we grow. And so I think that's probably the biggest difficulties as far as getting over that hump and being able to tap into that, learning what that is about yourself, and then tap into that and understanding it's okay to carry that and learn that. Yet that mental health is just as important as your physical health. Eating, working out. Yeah. The same way you look at that, the same way as you look at mental health. So
Iggy's jumped into the beef and jumping in.
Yeah, I jumped in.
And you're taking it on.
I'm all about jumping in beef now, don't you?
What are your thoughts, James?
Read that question again.
So what do you think some of the obstacles are for, men of color and boys of color getting involved in conversations and kind of the approach to having conversations around mental health?
Gotcha. For me, it was fear. For fear, growing up in the community of men and black men in our community, showing fear is showing weakness in our community. And so it was kind of hard to do that because we were scared to get bullied or even talk about our fear among our peers because we were getting picked on. So learning the difference of being able to share your feelings and not being afraid to share your feelings is what I try to push that narrative now, to change and to break that narrative, because we need to get that off our chest. And what better way to do it is with men sometimes, is to get it off our chest, and with different men of different colors. So when I say my brothers, I don't mean white, black. I say my brothers, this is what I mean. You are my brother. It's not blood with me, because I believe in his, and it's my heart. What changed my mentality is knowing that I could do better. And once you do better, you know better. You know what I mean? So that narrative changed in my mind and my heart said it. So I live it. I live Dad's making a difference every day, and I just try to change that narrative as much as possible through learning and listening. Now, that was the biggest thing that we didn't do as men growing up. We didn't listen. And so now my first thing to do is to listen first and answer later.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, James, I want to ask you, how do you get through the masks and the armor that most men put on and help them to step into responsibility and accountability? Because I know you have a lot of men come through your program that are quite resistant,
Yes, sir.
right? They're coming in because they want help with child support. They want to learn to navigate the system. But you make it very clear, like, we're going to help you with that, but we really got to get to the heart of the issue here. So how do you help men take off those masks and step into responsibility?
The biggest thing that we do is break down that foundation. If your roots are strong, then when storms come back along, kind of like the Ice Buddy Challenge, when your roots are strong, when the challenge comes back again, you know how to handle that situation. So that's what the first thing we do as fathers, we let them talk to get everything off their chest from day one, and to tell them to take their capes off. And so that's the biggest thing that I try to push, and that we push it first thing first, and that's making a difference, is to get fathers to listen sometimes. Because we always, this is what I was told by one of our famous guys, Mr. Mark Carpenter, said to me. I said, we always get the tough phone calls, and I wonder why we as fathers always get the tough phone calls. He said they call on the toughest person that they know. And so once we as men understand that, then we break down that barrier from knowing. It's a life-changing event. And once you get to that happy place, and fathers say, man, how you so happy, James, all the time? I said, once you get there, then we can have that conversation. Because sometimes we don't know what happiness looks like. If you don't know what it looks like, then you don't know what it looks like. But that is what we try to break down. We try to get your foundation of what you didn't know, to build that back up and then go from there.
Iggy, how do you invite men in your life to take the masks off and go deeper?
I don't know. I try to open up relationships by being open myself, especially in those spaces. You know, I think being a black man, you know, it's tough to approach therapy, to be honest, because there's not a lot of us in it. There's not a lot of us that look like us in it, and we already have disdain is a hard word, but distrust of certain systems. And if you feel like you're going into a therapy and you're spilling yourself out and you don't feel like that's getting received or it's getting used against you, then you're not gonna be open. It's already hard enough to do it within your family, to do it within your father, you know. So I think for me, I try to like go into it open and just be like, hey, this is me, you know. It's okay. I try to carry that aura a little bit to be that way, and it seems to work out. You know, I think people feel that they can come talk to me and open up, and definitely on a podcast space, that's interesting because you know, you're on a microphone, people are gonna listen to you, so there's like a lot of things around that. Yeah. So you really have to like make it an open space and be like, hey, listen, you know, this is your world. You talk it out. And I've had some guys that are within the community that probably normally wouldn't do that come on a podcast and do that. So I'm pretty proud of that.
I'm curious of both your experiences. Now, when I've been able to open spaces for other men to kind of take the masks off and dip a little deeper, it's amazing how some of the guys that you would least expect, when they do, won't shut up.
Man. Yeah, they just need that. You know what I mean? They looking for that. And yes, you're absolutely right. It's always the people you're like, man, I'm glad this happened, you know.
And you never know. You never know what's going on behind that bravado and that trying to put on that strong face. Yeah. Maybe that's how they learn, how people have learned. You can go, man, like, you're safe with me. Yeah. You're safe with me. So Iggy, I want to ask you, so one of the definitions of power that we use in the Mankind Project is courageously sharing our vulnerable truth.
Yeah, I saw that question. I was like,
Yeah.
boy, that's a tough one.
Well, here you go. You ready?
Yeah.
So what are some vulnerable truths you've had to own in this work?
Man, ego. Yeah, ego, boy. Especially with men, I think, and it doesn't show up in bravado. It doesn't. For me, like I love hard, so I would go into relationships or go into like partnerships with the expectation that you're gonna love as hard as me. And if you don't love as hard as me, why are you not loving as hard as me? You know what I mean? Like, and that's not showing up in an ego way as like what we normally see it. Normally we see ego as being cocky, arrogant, that kind of ego, but your ego shows up in different ways. So I think that's probably the most vulnerable space, because then once you go there, you start learning, okay, once I break down that wall, where am I at? Okay, who am I outside of that wall? And so that's it. I mean, that's probably the biggest. I think learning I'm not, I'm not always right. I'm not, I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? Like everything I could be wrong. There is some fault in a relationship on both ends. If something falls apart, it's not always that other person's fault. No matter what, there's something that in that relationship you got to look back on yourself.
Like you said, mate. So you're taking ownership.
Taking ownership, yep.
Yeah,
accountability, that's a big vulnerability space for men. So yeah, I think all of those are tough, and they take time to work through. You know what I mean? And get to where now you can kind of be balanced, and it's always going to be ongoing. It's never going to be a time where you're going to be perfect in those realms. So.
Yeah. Thank you. And James, what have you had to own in this process?
The most important thing I had to own, that it was okay to cry. That is the most powerful thing.
Say it again for the people in the back.
The most important thing that I had to learn as a man, that it was okay to cry.
It is okay to cry.
It was okay to cry, because that's what we as men that's what we don't do. It's hard to let people in sometimes because we feel like we got to be tough and we got to be the head of the household. But behind every strong man is a strong woman. And so that's what I had to learn from my mom. My mom was my mom and my dad sometimes, and I don't like to say that because I've changed my narrative about thinking. I used to see baby mother. I don't say baby mother no more. I say this is the mother of my child. And so just learning different narratives and learning how to talk and break down what we're like, again, breaking down what we didn't know. And so my heart was, like he said, I wear my heart on my sleeve sometimes. And me coming through the impoverished community and just be coming from, like I said, from child support situations, I wanted to help my community. And what better way to help my community is this is what I know how to do, is to teach fathers how to become better fathers and better men in the community. So my power is now is to give hope to fathers. Yeah. Just hope.
James, keep getting me, man. First time we spoke on the phone, I finished the phone call being like, I'm crying. I got tears on my notes, smudged everywhere. So what is your hope for Chattanooga as a whole? So who are you really hoping to reach? And what is the outcome that you really hope we can achieve based on having conversations like the one we're having right now?
My biggest hope for Chattanooga, Tennessee is that we all come together. Just like we having this event today, look at everybody's out here from all different races, creeds, walks of life. This is what we need more of. We all need to come together. Just because you stay on Signal Mountain, just because you stay in East Brainerd, just because you stay in Uda Ward in the suburbs, we all come from the same walk of life. We all walk through God. And so my most important thing that we all need to learn here today is just to come together and love on each other. Love on each other. More than anything, you got to love on each other.
Beautiful. And Iggy?
Probably the biggest thing for me, like I said before, is mental health. Is you need to look at your mental health as the same as you look at physical health. As the same you look at spiritual health, going to church. Those things, you need to be looking at mental health the same way. I think a lot of times, especially men, we suppress those things, and learning that that's a powerful part of yourself, because when you are able to balance your mental health, you open a lot of doors for yourself. And so I think that would probably be my biggest take as far as like trying to get Chattanooga and even the world, to understand that that's a part of your nature. And I think that learning that will help break down walls and break down things, because we all deal with the things that we're talking about: anxiety, depression, life, being a dad. Those things are not color bound. Those things are not culturally bound. We all deal with that. So, I think that's probably my biggest take.
Beautiful. We are here for Men's Mental Health Matters 2024, the very first of its kind. And I'm so grateful to have you here. We got James Woods from Dad's Making a Difference and First Things First. And we got Iggy from Iggy's Loudmouth podcast. Be sure to check it out. It's everywhere where you can find podcasts. And last thing I'll ask each of you, we're asking all of our incredible guests here today the question, what is it that you wish or want for the boys and men in your lives in the future? So, Iggy, what is it that you want for the boys and men in your lives going forward?
Well, specifically, I just was having this conversation in the ice bucket with my son, getting him comfortable with therapy. Understanding that, that's good. That environment's good. You don't have to, dad and mom is not always the safe space for you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so for me, like learning that for the young boys, like learning about therapy, learning that that's a safe space. Now there's an importance of having a good relationship with your therapist, but I think just having that ability to know, because as a kid, I didn't even know, that was lost on me, you know what I mean? And even as an adult, it had like a negative connotation over it, so I never really looked into the power of it. So now that's what I kind of like give into now. And also reading, I think I didn't get into reading till now when I was working on my mental health. Speaking of which, I have bookmarks, Iggy's Loudmouth podcast bookmarks. But anyways, yeah, so reading, encouraging that for the young boys. Get into some books, whatever it is that and makes you want to read. Like for me, I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan, so one of the first books I got into was his book he wrote, Mama Mentality, which talks about cold plunging, which led me here. So so there we go. So yeah, just reading and getting into that helps you learn how to focus on that space, stay concentrated in that reading, and then move on. So yeah.
Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. And James, what do you wish for the boys and men in your life going forward in the future?
My wish is that my son be better than me. That is my biggest goal, that my kids just be better than me and just live on in the legacy that I'm trying to leave behind for my kids and to just become great men in the community. And just like Nate, my hard work that I'm doing just go in vain. And just to break down that narrative that we as black men can't be good fathers and we can be great fathers. That is the biggest thing that we go through as variables and obstacles is black men can't be good fathers. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want. That is what I'm doing for my fathers and for my kids. I won a generation award. First time I ever won one was over here a couple of years. Last year I won my first generation award, and that changed the narrative of my whole family. Like today, like my kids look up to me now because they saw my journey. So me being a different father, going through the obstacles and sharing everything with my kids, the good, bad, ugly, ups and downs, infidelities. I do not drop the ball with them, and so I just want my ball to keep bouncing with my babies and just keep going and keep going. And one day we'll be on Iggy's podcast. I'm putting my invite out there right now, Iggy. So just want you to know that I'm reaching out right now because I love what you're doing, bro. I love what you're doing, and this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I want to be the bridge to Chattanooga, and so this is what I'm doing. I want to be the bridge, and I'm gonna bridge it up. So, thank you, Brandon.
Thank you both for being here. Let's put our hands together for James Woods and Iggy Hogan, doing powerful work here in the community. James.
Hey.
Thanks for being here, mate. Thanks for bringing the Ice Buddy crew. We've just finished our third round.
Third round
of plunges. How good is that? Look at this turnout. It's amazing. So, mate, tell us about Ice Buddies, how this came about.
So, Ice Buddies started, I was dealing with some pretty heavy burnout, some depression, and I ended up just seeking out cold water after reading about Wim Hof and how cold water supported him through a time of deep pain and loss.
And so, mate, let me ask, how did you take to the cold water initially?
I'm not gonna lie, the first time I got in the water, I did not last very long. It was not pleasant, but at the same time, the shock just brought me into the present in a way that I hadn't experienced before.
Yeah, mate, that's amazing. As you can see, you've built quite a large community here. So tell me, when did this start? How long ago?
So Ice Buddies started as a community, December 2nd, 2023, we did a plunge at Main Times 24, and that was our first public plunge. And people loved it so much that we were like, let's just keep it going.
Less than 6 months. Wow, look at this community. How many Ice Buddies do you suspect there are?
I know there's over 100.
Wow. 100 Ice Buddies in 6 months. That's incredible. What is your call to action to anyone who may have found themselves where you were when you started this? What do you want to say to that person?
Yeah, when you feel trapped by depression or anxiety, you feel trapped in the past or a future that you don't want. And the cold water brings you to the present in a way that nothing else does. It's an immediate call to the present, and the more time we can spend in the present, the more time we can exist. We can just be. And there's peace in that.
Absolutely. Well, mate, it's incredible work that you're doing. And thank you for bringing your community down. They've really showed up, and we've added some new Ice Buddies to the mix.
Yes, there's a bunch of new Ice Buddies today. Bunch of first-timers.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, guys, this is James Dawson with the Ice Buddies here in Chattanooga. Let's give him a round of applause for the great community that he's created here.
And follow us on Instagram. We are Ice Buddies. If you plunged, we've got stickers. And you get to go home with an Ice Buddy sticker. If you want a beanie in May, you can get one of those too.
Chattanooga, Tennessee, yeah. How y'all doing out there? Y'all right? There's a few songs that have meant a lot to me on my journey, and this is one of the first songs I learned when I was learning how to play the guitar. You'll recognize it. But it's a lot of feelings in this song, so. When the night has come and the land is dark and the mountains
Here we are at Men's Mental Health Matters 2024. And I'm joined today by Rick Rushing, and I got to try and compose myself. He's my personal guitar hero here in Chattanooga. Phenomenal artist. He just hit us with some great tunes here. So, mate, welcome to this live recording of the Mankind Podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Brandon. You've worked so hard for this event. This is a beautiful event. And, men, we don't have really excuses anymore.
Let's say that again for the people in the back.
Men, we don't have any excuses anymore when we have events like this to come out and get things off your chest in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something near and dear to your heart as well, because the work you do with music therapy. And so
definitely.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, music therapy is something I've been doing since I've played the guitar, working with children in psychiatric hospitals, working with music as a medium to help them express their feelings, especially young men, because they have a harder time to really tell how they're really feeling, what's going on the inside.
Yeah. What's been your experience in engaging younger men in these conversations? What are some of the obstacles, and how do you help navigate those obstacles to get them to open up?
Well, a lot of young men have a brick wall that's just on the outside of that we can't really see because of previous trauma. A lot of these young men are poly victims. And so when you have this, you have to use, and that's why I like music, because there's a way to connect and kind of break down those barriers with music. Get on the same track of like, wait, what type of music do you like? You know? And so that helps, because then if you know kind of what type of music they're on, then you might know kind of what their mental health or mental state might be.
Isn't there something amazing with music where just expression, you can have someone just stoic,
Right.
stone face,
Right.
and then they start to play, and it's like they're communicating.
Exactly.
Where they might not have the words, but they can do it through their fingers or through their breath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can cry with music. You can play minor blues, which is more of a sadder type of tone. Or you can play major music or major tone music.
Yeah.
It's a happy.
Yeah.
So you can tell really how you feel through that.
Some John Lee Hooker.
John Lee Hooker, you know?
Yeah,
you can't have it worse than that some days.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
And let me ask you, what is your hope for the impact of your music in touching the hearts and minds of boys and men?
Well, to be a man is something that is a lifelong journey because every day we're faced with obstacles. So I hope someone can play one of my songs or hear me and say, okay, we can do this one more day, or we can listen to the song again and help bring positive emotions. So my music is going to always be positive to try to uplift because we all get kicked in the ground enough to where we don't need music that kicks us, puts us down. We need music that raises us up and elevates us.
Was there a particular role model for you that showed you a different way in tapping into your emotions and starting to change perhaps a more broad narrative around masculinity and manhood?
Wow. Well, I was the only boy in my family, so I had never had a man to really look up to. My dad and I really didn't get along very much. So along my life, I had to look to my family, friends to be influences. Kobe Bryant was one of my mentors, and so before he passed, we had a nice conversation, and he was able to direct me to be a passionate person and find what I love to do. And he said, "You'll never work a day," and he was right. I found music found me. So I would say he's one of the biggest ones, and then of course my guitar teacher. And he was an older man. He took a lot of his personal time just to show me how to play. He came up in a time, Jim Crow, where black musicians weren't able to get good guitar lessons. So he had to learn a lot of it for himself. So I give him a lot of the credit for developing me to the man. And that's why I want to give back to anybody. It doesn't matter if you're white or black, because music is a universal language. And so if we have this language to use, we can help, especially men, get through some of the harder times.
Beautiful, mate. And so you're talking about legacy right there as well. You know, impact that we can have as role models and as men. What excites you the most about this next generation of boys and men coming up?
I see a bright future with the ones who are putting down the iPads and picking up instruments. Because one of my best students, he has ADHD. He's a straight A student now. Before he was in school, he was having problems concentrating. He was having problems with the homework. Now he's about to graduate. 5th grade, getting promotion, and he's playing guitar, and he's expressing himself. He's a good young man. So the future is bright, and I think, especially now we're going into this technological age where we're using artificial intelligence. The ability to create something that's real comes from the arts. It comes from music. It comes from painting. It comes from sculpting. It comes from dance. So as soon as we learn how to inculcate that into our young ones, like I'm trying to do as much as I can, then those are going to be the ones that reap the benefits in the future.
And you're paying it forward. So guys, everyone, let's
you,
give it up for Rick Rushing.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon Cliff.
Hey, Boyson.
Brandon, what's happening, man?
Mate, I'll tell you, little one, my daughter, she is becoming more and more her, which is amazing. I'm just eating it up. But when I don't want to eat it up is in the middle of the night, 4 in the morning, when she's trying to skip naps and I've got a lot of things to do. That's when things get a little tough.
So what are you leaning on? I mean, yeah, right. I get that. How much coffee are you drinking these days?
Well, mate, you know me. I'm certainly not. I don't like the vices. You know, you've been in the health space for a while, and I get a little bit too hooked on those things. So I'm pretty grateful that we had the folks at Magic Mind reach out to provide us and the audience some value with their Magic Mind drink solution. And dude, I can tell you, it is blowing my mind.
What's it doing for you? I'll talk about mine, but what's it doing for you?
Well, mate, I think the biggest thing is sustained energy. That's what I need. I need to have the same energy at 10 a.m. as I do need at 2 p.m. But when the energy dips and I've still got work to do and she's crawling all over me, screaming in my ear, that is when I need to be able to push through. And yeah, so I'm not getting the dips. And unlike coffee, I'm sleeping at night, which is amazing.
Yes, the ingredient thing. So that's me too. I've been a coffee dude for a very long time. And when I get into these spaces where I'm just working, and I get too much into the coffee, I end up like frazzled and stomach achy and jittery. And what I'm seeing with Magic Mind is like, I've reduced the amount of coffee I'm actually drinking in the morning, and Magic Mind boosts the focus for me. So for me, it's like, how many things can I juggle in a day? And having that focus without the coffee stuff, without all the coffee downside, I think has been really good for me. And yes, the sleep thing, man, there's some ingredients in this stuff that have totally helped my sleep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I mean, because you're getting the caffeine from matcha, which is an extended release caffeine as opposed to like an intense rise then dip. It's got all the fancy mushrooms that everyone's taking these days, including ashwagandha, which gives you that más fuerte kind of energy. And and fortunately for us, they've offered us a great discount that us and you, the listeners, have access to get 56% off your first subscription and 20% off a one-time purchase with the unique discount code MANKIND. So if you go to magicmind.com/mankind, you get access to this discount. And like us, you get to enjoy this sustained energy, that más fuerte energy. I can take that into a couple places. But yeah, big fans.
And yes. Check it out. Yes.
Yeah, and I need to get my wife to stop stealing mine, which would be great.
Thanks, Brandon.
My name is Sam Steadman. I was over there doing the burgers. So, yeah. Also, you see that flag flying way high. It is a nonprofit that my friend and myself own called Climb in Place. If you happen to go over that way and you're like, oh, well, what's that all about, man? There's this guy over here with a backwards hat on, ice cold Coca-Cola. His name's Josh. You can ask him things about it because I'm going to be way too busy. So, yeah. But anyway, this song I'm going to sing for you is a song I wrote called Poser. It's pretty much like from a man's perspective about, or anybody's perspective in general, really, how this crazy 2024 world we live in nowadays, it's pretty much hard to be yourself and be comfortable in doing that and going out into the public, and, you're pretty much afraid to offend every single person that you meet. And you shouldn't feel that way. We should all have the freedom to say whatever we want, and if you do get offended, that's cool, but you should also be open to knowing that's going to happen and accepting others for their differences. And sometimes when you don't do that, people like me are like, ooh, well, I'll just shut up, and because, my nanny always told me it's just better not say anything at all, and so you just hold them feelings in like a little Coca-Cola bottle and get all shook up, and then you explode and go home and cry about it. So that's what you shouldn't do, But anyway, find somebody to talk about those good things or those bad things, because that's what we're all here to do. So anyway, I'm going to sing this song and quit rambling. As I sit alone in my room, I pray to God I'll leave soon, 'cause I can't take this pain within. The scars that are on my face don't match the ones that I embrace, for not being who I am. 'Cause I crave happiness. Don't we all? Ain't it a bliss? You can't find it without sin. I dare you to try. I'm not saying I'm a perfect guy, but I've been through hell and back again. 'Cause I'm tired. Oh, and I'm cold. Well, I'm tired. Oh, and I feel like there's nowhere to go. Well, I work hard every day, trying to get these damn bills paid, but feels like I'm losing in the end. So I scroll through my phone, looking for a place to call home, but all I see is comparison. So I just smile and wave. They think you're happy, but reality is there's voices screaming in your head, telling you to end it all, when really you just need a friend to call. So you don't wind up on who fled. 'Cause I'm tired. Oh, and I'm cold. Well, I'm tired. Oh, and it feels like there's nowhere to go. So take me home. Take me home. Take me home. Take me home. 'Cause I'm tired.
Let's give it up for Sam Steadman. Thank you for taking some time away from the grill.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Of course, I love it.
So, mate, there was, outside of your delicious eats and incredible gift for music, a big part of why we wanted here is you've served our country. And so thank you for that. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you. And so what does being included in an event like this mean for you?
I mean, it's a pretty big deal in a sense of all sorts of perspectives from it, right? Like, you obviously have the regular entrepreneurial side to where it's like you get to serve other people food to make them feel happy because it's actually food that has love in it and stuff. And it's not just typical food. Not saying that it's the best, but I'm just saying I love seeing people get happy when they feed themselves. And then obviously there's the gift of music to where, you know, literally if you're in your car or whatever the case is, it's therapeutic enough for me to where I know that it's got to be at least therapeutic somewhere out there for one other person, you know? And then coming from a perspective of, you know, myself and Josh Ballman, he's out there too as well, answering any questions that anybody might have about what Climb in Place is and what we're trying to do. Being able to talk to other vets and connect with them and like give them a place of, I guess you could say, hope. Because we're not necessarily trying to be, hey, call this number and we're going to get you through everything that you've ever dealt with, right? But offering relatability and hope is like a community, and camaraderie as a friend that understands and is able to relate to any kind of circumstances that they've been in is a huge deal.
You know, to hear you share that's really important, really special, and to have you represented here today with Climb in Place and to create community for our returning men and women that have served overseas and served this nation is so important. and talk about community, because with the Mankind Project, we've run a program called Journey Home, which has helped reintegrated servicemen back into community. Talk about that transition from going from such tight connection and community with the men and women you serve with to then coming home to regular civilian life.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely difficult, right? I'm not 100% I can't fill the same shoes as somebody who has been overseas. However, I know multiple friends and people who have done that, and they're very close to me. And I've also been through the same kind of training that they have. And when you're even put into that training, as you're being brought up into go do something of that nature, you're isolated from the outside world, and you're being told day in and day out that is the only thing in life, is like, for instance, I was in the Marine Corps, so it was like there was nothing else outside of the Marine Corps, and if you were able to get out of the Marine Corps, you were trash, and that's just what you're told, as far as but in those dark times also, you create really deep and honoring friendships with the persons who are right beside you and being your battle buddy, for instance, day in and day out. And, because they would literally take a bullet for you. And, giving another man's life for another human being is probably the greatest sacrifice ever. And so, anyway, once you transition back into the civilian world, it's almost like you're thrown to the wolves in a way, to where, that camaraderie and community, it's gone. You don't necessarily find it anywhere, especially if you go to any kind of corporate jobs that they're told, we support veterans and come hire us. And so, when you go into that kind of environment, it's not the same at all. Yeah. You're taught and congratulated almost for speaking in a kind of crude way, and you have your own jargon and slang that you use, and then when you go use it out in the civilian world, it's not welcomed at all, which is a big thing. But
which comes back to community, making sure that you form bonds and relationships with other servicemen and women.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But you're put into you kind of get secluded and into a dark place, and you don't even want to go out into the world anymore. And so that's kind of what we are kind of here for, is to be hey, there's these events where we are, multiple types of branches of veterans, and please come out and just gain a friend, who understands.
Last thing I want to ask you is, what is it that you want to say to reach the hearts and minds of other servicemen and women that are currently isolating, that are not reaching out for support and finding community since they've returned home?
I would say, you're not alone. You're going to feel 100% alone. And you do have to have a little bit of that same kind of purpose in you feel like you have to find a purpose, right? So just know that there are other people and other nonprofits, organizations like Climate Place that are out there other than us, that are trying to provide a welcoming space for you. And sometimes it just takes that one step that you have to put forward, because if you don't put that step forward, it's going to be hard to get out and find those types of people. But just know that you are not alone. I promise you, because that is something that's even myself sometimes deals with, and I'm out in the public all the time, and it's wild, but you're not alone out there. Go try to join us on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, and if not, I'm sure we'll be able to find a veteran who can become one of your good friends that will help you through those dark times.
Well, he's served our country, he's served us food, and he's served us some beautiful entertainment this evening. Sam Steadman, everybody, put your hands together. All right, we are here at Men's Mental Health Matters 2024. And for our next panel discussion, we're joined by Sydney Guerrette, who is the president and founder of Be the Change Youth Initiative, which encourages and empowers youth to see the purpose and power of their gifts, talents, and voices. And she and her brother Braden will be performing to close out our amazing event today. So thank you for being here, Sydney. And we're joined by Edward Ellis, who is the Diversity Partnerships Manager at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Chattanooga. And he monitors mentoring interactions and offers insights and advice to ensure child safety, facilitate healthy relationship development, and promote positive youth outcomes. So thank you for being here, Edward. And we have Kneil Place, who is a sports counselor with Eureka Fitness, a mental health educator with the Mental Health Association of East Tennessee, and a coach at the Macaulay School. But I must also say Kneil has been a humongous part of putting this event together. So much appreciation to you, my friend. Let's give a round of applause for Kneil.
That's probably where I recognize you.
So we've got 30 minutes to cover a lot of territory here. This is a question for each of you, and I'll start with you, Sydney. What are some of the scary things you are all seeing impacting youth right now?
I think the number one would probably be social media. Social media has always been detrimental. I think it can be used for good, but I think in a lot of cases, it's easy to compare people, whether it's job-related or school-related or grades or honestly bodies. Like it could, any type of thing, honestly, it can be heightened. Highlight reels are such a big thing, and I think when it comes to whenever I would talk in front of youth or have conversations, all the time they would bring up, I just want less of social media. I want real in-person community, and social media is such a hindrance to my own mental health and how I interact with my peers. So I think that's probably a number one thing. Also, I think just in the way that we relate to one another, a lot of things over the last several years especially have gotten really divisive. And so when it comes to the way that we interact with people and talk with people, it's the way that we choose to use our words and things like that. So I think in those two, I mean, you're inundated with those things every single day. So I think just in those two mindsets, it's just really hard to kind of just keep on going and have that encouraging, like hopeful mindset when you're just inundated with those negative things.
Thank you, Sydney. Edward, what's worrisome for you that you're seeing with youth these days?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. First is I'm seeing a sense of hopelessness. And part of that, a great deal of that, is because of the state of affairs that adults have left for the children to grow up in now. So that's one thing I see that's a little disturbing. Something else I'm finding somewhat disturbing is that there doesn't seem to be a healthy respect or fear, if you can think of it from a healthy perspective, from young people today. I think about when I was growing up, that you would act up in certain environments, but those weren't the same environments that many adults or authority figures were around. So it's a different climate, and so those are some things that are kind of concerning to me.
And Kneil, you've been speaking in schools for a while now, talking about mental health and helping kind of remove the veil and give proper tools to kids to have these conversations in a healthy way. What's something that brings up a little fear in you with this next generation as it pertains to mental health?
Yeah, I think for me it's the inability of them to be in stillness, right? And it's not necessarily speaking to an unwillingness to be in stillness, but it's just like they don't know how to just be in tune with what's happening in their minds necessarily, or what they're feeling in a way that is totally just observational, non-judgmental. I think also just the enormity of the amount of stimulants that we have, either from social media or TV or phones or music or advertisements, whatever it is. It's hard to get away from all of that and just be in a place where you can engage with your mind and the self, and then to actually do that in a way that is effective and just like be with that stillness and be like, what is this telling me? Part of it is all the stuff around us that makes that difficult, but then there's just the lack of the know-how of how to do that once you're there.
I'll tell you, something that gives me pause to really get worried is the amount of judgment from older generations on Gen Z and this next generation coming up, as if we ever had to worry about some of the challenges that they're experiencing right now. I mean, cyberbullying being one of them, where there seems to be a lack of consequences for some of the horrible things that are being said and shared on social media about others, and especially if parents, educators, or other caretakers or role models are not modeling what it's like to engage in these conversations. Many of these kids are just left to their devices. It's a gauntlet, an absolute gauntlet. Edward, I want to ask you, mate, do you see differences in how kids are doing who are coming from different backgrounds? And are there kind of unique obstacles or advantages that you're seeing for kids from different backgrounds?
That's a good question. I think that there are some common challenges that exist amongst most children. I mean, you know, navigating peer pressure, dealing with authority figures. There's some commonalities, I think, that are there. But I think where the differences come when the issues of socioeconomic class, and so the issues of classism, sexism, and racism with individuals who are younger that are impacted by those, when they're going through those regular other issues, it seems to be compounded when they're also dealing with those other societal ills. So I see that being a difference with some of the kids.
And are you addressing these kids in different ways based on background or?
Well, yes, we do try to. We do try to meet them at the point of their need, and that could look different for different children. But we want to have an equitable focus. So we want to have something where we're able to address the needs where they are and be able to really reach them at the point where they are at that particular time.
So what I'm hearing you say is seeing the whole child, yes, and really meeting them where they're at, and not just basing your approach based on race or class. You're just trying to make sure to know that individual child and what they're going through. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. And Sydney, I want to ask you, what do you feel our next generation of young people needs from us as role models, educators, parents?
Honestly, I think a big thing is opportunity. When it comes to the comment that you mentioned about how a lot of people in older generations look down to Gen Z, I see that all the time. Even with the way that people outside of the school system, within the school system, I think there's a lot of this animosity and judgment towards Gen Z, being like, we're lazy, we don't care about the things that are happening around us, and we're trying to figure this out, and like we don't know what we're doing, which is 100% true. We're trying to figure this out, we don't know what we're doing, but we have so much determination and so much willingness to just step into the places of the unknown. And you see that so much in like middle school, high school. I work with a lot of middle school and high school students, elementary school students. Like, there's just this tenacity and this determination to figure things out and to just try their best and to try new things. And when you give students an opportunity to say, like, hey, I see value in what you have to bring to the table. I see value in you as a human, and just giving them the opportunity to shine that light. What are their gifts and talents? Give them the opportunity to use those things for the greater good of the community. Like, those are the moments when you really start to see it click for them. And that, when you give them the opportunity to use their gifts and talents, it benefits their mental health because I have a purpose. I have something to contribute to society. Older generations, adults look up to me and see me as a leader. I don't just have to be a leader of tomorrow, but I can lead today. But when it comes to adults, you need to make sure that you give them the opportunity to lead and don't just see them as, you can do it in the future. It starts now, genuinely.
It does start now, and judgment and shame, that's a lot of weight for kids to carry, especially when you're casting out upon an entire age group, an entire generation coming up, as opposed to the incredible work that Be The Change does is meet kids to really lean into their gifts and their strengths. And I mean, there are a lot of kids who may not be getting that from inside the home. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and shout out to Be The Change Youth Initiative and your mum, Deirdre Catlett, for being a huge part of bringing this event together. Absolutely amazing. There she is. So very humble. She is, yes. Deirdre, everyone here knows Deirdre because Deirdre has put in the effort to get to know everyone here. It's so true and so amazing. So thank you. Kneil, I've got one for you. So what are the most important things to keep in mind when trying to communicate to a young person about the importance of understanding their mental health?
Yeah, there's a lot there. So my organization, Mental Health Association, we own the schools and teach grades 4 through 12. And how we approach each of those ages becomes very different. But what I found kind of across the board is, one, they don't really want to be told what to do or how to think. So it's more about meeting them where they're at and taking this less broad scale of like, hey, here's why you need to think about mental health out in the world and how it affects the community outside of yourself. It's like, no, how is this about you? Like, how does this affect you? Make it very much about them, guide them to that place where they're thinking about the lens of themselves. I always say at the end of these sessions that we do at schools, I could speak at you all day about mental health. I'd be happy to. But really far more powerful than that is you taking this information and thinking, how does this apply to yourself, right? What are the things that stress you out? How do you cope with that? And let's take that to the smallest scale possible so that you can apply that thing today. And I can challenge you to do that today. So it's really, like Edward was saying, meeting them where they're at and allowing them to get to a place where they can put those things into practice, just building those blocks, right? I know I don't always get to see, I'm teaching them for like 2 days, but it's just about planting those seeds so that they can like grow them themselves, moving past that.
And how have you had to check yourself as a facilitator in meeting some of these kids? Because in my experience of working in schools and talking in schools, I meet some kids and I'm jumping in with those same judgments that I'm trying to remove from them because of the difference between, I guess, ways in which I grew up or I was raised. Have you had to kind of check yourself in some of those things?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the way that I check myself is like stepping back at moments and being like, I don't need to give you all the information of the world right now. If I can allow space for this to breathe and allow you guys to share yourself, what I find is like, we have a curriculum. I can stray from that curriculum. When we get into a place where like there's just space to talk, one kid will share something and you'll see another kid really eager to be like, oh, me too. And you find that relatedness, that becomes far more powerful. It's like, oh, I'm not alone in this thing. I'm not so unique, even though it feels so isolating. To connect in that way is so powerful. To facilitate that on the smallest level goes a long way.
So meeting kids where they are. Shout out to the dads and mums out there that are trying to figure out Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft just to get some quality time in. So, Edward, I got one for you. So what are 2 or 3 basic actions or advice you would give to parents, coaches, educators, role models who want to engage with their kids on a deeper level? And you can finish that with, maybe start with the don'ts. Here's how you don't do it, and then 2 or 3 tips to really engage.
Let's see, with the don'ts. Don't force or impose your will upon the young person to be who you think they need to be. That would be a don't.
Can you say that again, please? That was...
Yeah, don't force or impose your will upon the young person to become who you think they need to be. So that's the major don't. But I would say the things to do, and I'm glad to have an example here, Mr. Chris Cooper. Come on, raise your hand, Mr. Chris Cooper. He's been a mentor with our organization, has done a phenomenal job, and it really boils down to just a couple of things. One is to be present, and by that I mean that you're fully in the moment with that young person, that you are connected, that you're paying attention. So to be present, to be consistent would be the second thing. That if you decide that you're going to set a particular time that you're going to be there with them and for them, by all means honor that and follow through. So be consistent.
Why is consistency important?
But because we deal with a culture that has been, of young people, that has been let down by so many adults. And so the one thing that they're doing is they're testing to see, when they're not testing to see if you're going to come through, they're testing to see when you're going to fail. And so as that's occurring, it's a surprise to them if you are able to follow through with consistency, with reliability. And that's the third point, to be reliable. Yeah, and so I think all 3 of those, if you can do those in some small way, it gets you down the line.
And what I'm taking from what you're sharing is it's about trust. Like really building that trust.
Right.
Yeah. No, beautiful, beautiful. Edward, liquid gold, mate. I'm going to have to get you for a solo episode on the Mankind podcast. We're going to have to make that happen. Now, Sydney, I want to ask you, what excites you most about this next generation coming up?
Oh, goodness. A lot of things. I think the biggest thing is they're ready. There's a readiness, and in order to take action. I think they see a lot of things that have not gone well, and they see a lot of systems in power that have oppressed others for so long, and they're ready to take action in order to make these things less of a reality. They're tired of no. They're tired of being told what they need to do, but they're willing to flip that on its head and say, like, we're ready to do whatever pushes the right movement of love and hope forward and taking action in that area. I think there's also a level of authenticity with them. They've seen a lot of the crap that people have just brushed over, whether it's the mental health conversation, people not wanting to be vulnerable and open up about their own feelings. They're also ready to take action and sharing their own stories and surrounding a lot of other people with love and compassion when they open up about their own stories. So really, like, it's just, there's so many different things with this generation that I'm so incredibly hopeful for. And yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think we're in good hands.
I believe we are too. Edward, how about yourself? What excites you the most about this next generation coming up?
Well, I'm fortunate to just have experienced a high school senior recognition. So I was at Tyner Academy. Shout out to Tyner and any Tyner graduates. But I was presenting the Big Brothers Big Sisters scholarship to 3 amazing students. One was rated the top of the class, one was 3rd, and the other one was in the top 10. So phenomenal group of young people. But one of the things that excited me is that 2 things. One, the students there had earned $7.9 million in scholarships. That's one thing. The second thing was that I was excited that they were excited, that they showed joy, they showed anticipation, they showed excitement about the future. And so that to me was encouraging, and I think hope for the signs to come for this generation.
You're getting this next generation activated.
Yeah.
Giving them skin in the game, right? Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. Kneil, yourself, what excites you the most about this next generation coming up?
For me, it's just how much we can learn from them. I think that for better or worse, this generation has a platform to share a lot of what they think. And whether we agree with it or not, it can inform us, 1, what they think, and 2, how they think. And that gives us a lot to go on. And if we're open to listening to both of those things, it can inform how we then navigate that to both assist and support them, but also maybe change the methodology with which we approach this kind of stuff in general. So, I mean, there's tons of information that is out there that is just ready for us to glean in a really good way, I think.
Beautiful. Kneil, I'm going to stay with you, and you can take a minute to think about this. What is the message that you want to land on the hearts and minds of boys and men out there that feel that resistance around beginning these conversations, around being a part of investigating areas in their lives that may be a bit tricky or a bit scary to look at? What is your wish for those boys and men going forward into the future? And that's a question we're asking everyone today. You'll see Laura and Christine going around with a little QR code. You'll have a chance to submit your answer, and we're going to take this to the city of Chattanooga to show them what Chattanoogans really want for the men and boys in their lives. So I'll ask again, what is it that you wish and hope for the boys and men going forward into the future?
I'll speak mostly from my own experience on that. It's embrace being willing to be uncomfortable with what you might be experiencing and feeling, and then from that space, recognizing that you don't have to sit with that alone, and that you can ask for help, and there is help. I mean, it's both of those things have to exist. There is help. You have to be willing to ask for it as well, and that is, especially as a male, something that can be very hard to do. And then on the other side of that, recognizing that through doing that work, through being willing to be uncomfortable and find yourself on the other side of it, building resilience over time so that you're able to better show up for yourself and the people around you in your life.
And thank you for saying that. I feel like that's a massive misconception around talking about mental health. And I think that's a projection from older generations that, like, it's a sign of weakness, or, you know, you're bearing your underbelly by talking about these things. But not a lot of people understand that the resilience and strength that comes from having these conversations. I think that's also important for kids to understand that who are getting their mental health advice from social media, is that yes, you may be experiencing XYZ mental health challenge, but you don't have to be consumed by it. You don't have to be possessed by it. There are some positive action steps you can take forward with that awareness and not feel stuck in a place. So I'll pass it to you, Edward. What is it that you really wish to impart onto the minds and hearts of boys and men for the future?
I guess the main thing would be to not lose hope, that there is a solution or sometimes a resolution to this situations you may be dealing with, that there is the outcome may not look like you expect it to look, but the process will continue to help you grow and develop and learn. So just to never lose hope, that is a bright side somewhere.
Thank you. And Sydney?
I think things like this, more of a community where people aren't afraid to start up those conversations, and when there are men that are able to open up about their own experiences, it just creates more of a culture where people are not afraid to show their vulnerable selves, and they're okay with learning how to grow in deeper friendships and community. And I think this is just the starting point. It's really beautiful to have places and people like you guys, because you're we see something that's wrong in our society and we're going to take action and do something about it. And so it really just starts with having these conversations, and then it goes on from there. So I think things like this are beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, we have Sydney Guerrette here from Be the Change Youth Initiative. We have Edward Ellis from Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Kneil Place from Eureka Fitness and the Mental Health Association of East Tennessee. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you all for being here and for all that you do. Okay, before we welcome on our next and closing artist in the company of Wolves, just a reminder to take your photos and videos, and when you post them on social, make sure to use the hashtag RealMenFeelChat. That's CHATT. If you're a local, I wouldn't have had to explain that to you. So let's bring him up in the company of Wolves. Put your hands together.
Hey everyone, my name's Sydney. This is my brother Braden. We're in the company of Wolves. We're really excited to be here. Everything that they're doing with Men's Mental Health Matters is incredible, and we're just honestly honored to be a part of it. Mental health is something that we're really big advocates of, and a lot of the songs that we write about are based on our own mental health experiences. This next song is actually one of those songs. This is the very first song that we wrote together 5 years ago. It's called I'll Stay, but it's the importance of community. So make sure that you surround yourself with people that love you, and no matter what you're going through, will be encouraging and support you, even through those dark moments. This one's I'll Stay.
side. With me at your side. We know you too well, so let us comfort you. Words can't cover up what you're going through. I know it's hard to say, but you can tell me the truth. No. Get lost in your eyes, I'll stay here with you. I'll stay. Well, I'll stay. I'll stay. Well, I'll stay.
How good was that? Round of applause for In the Company of Wolves. Amazing. Well, I want to talk to you, Sydney and Braden, for a quick sec before we do our closing announcements. Mate, the voices on the two of you, just absolutely wonderful. And for context, Deirdre Catlett, who has been a huge part of putting this event together, these are her talented children. Absolutely amazing. And with Be the Change Youth Initiative as well, the amazing work that they're doing. Braden, mate, I want to ask you, what does this music mean to you as in like your own journey in growing up as a young man?
Yeah, so music for me has always been the way that I cope with all my different struggles, whether that's with anxiety, depression. But yeah, it's always been in my corner if I like needed to express myself. So yeah.
And Sydney, how is it for you to watch Braden lean into this discomfort and move into like expression through music?
Oh gosh, I think I've been doing this with him for 5 years now, and just watching him every single year just experiment more with being vulnerable and being authentic in the way that he writes. Like, I'm not even kidding. Some of the songs that he writes, I'm like, where did this come from? Like, it just seems so incredible and he's 19. It's just so cool to be able to see my younger brother be able to do this thing and do it really well in the way that he's able to reach out to other people through his words. Because it takes a lot to be vulnerable and it takes a lot to be authentic. So the way that he's able to do that with such grace and patience and authenticity is just it's just really cool to see.
No, it's beautiful, Braden. You're showing other men, especially young men, what it's like to lean into that discomfort and go through it. Because as you probably know, there's no way around these issues. There's only through. So what is it that you want to impart on other young men and boys to kind of encourage them? Like, hey, the water's fine. Like, lean in.
Yeah, no, life is really difficult. I feel like over time we all learn that. So I feel like it's really important just to surround yourself with people that you trust and always just remind yourself or let them remind you that you're not alone. But yeah.
Beautiful. All right, let's put our hands together and In the Company of Wolves. Thank you. So, all right, Chattanooga, as we wrap up this Men's Mental Health Matters 2024, the very first of its kind here, I thought we might try something that's never been done. So I'm going to ask every man, that's all of you, every man and boy, to form a circle in this front area here. And our ladies, and our young ladies, you're a part of this too. So I need you to come in. Now let's squeeze in this circle just a little bit. I know we've got others coming in, but squeeze it in, getting a little more shoulder to shoulder. Now I invite you to be aware of the discomfort, you could say, in standing in a circle like this around other men from different backgrounds, men who may not look like you, men with different orientations, yet they're all here today. They're all here today to be a part of a greater conversation for men and boys that it's not weak to speak and that real men do feel. So take a moment, look around as the sun shines on us at each of the eyes of the men in this circle that have chosen to be here today, that have other commitments that could have been somewhere else, but they chose here to be here for you, and they chose here to be here for themselves. Look around. And I'm going to invite our ladies and young ladies to form an outside circle here. So men, look inside this circle. This is brotherhood. This is what happens when men and boys get together to show each other, brother, I've got you, and I know you've got me. With brotherhood, you can tackle far greater challenges in life. Don't do life alone. Now, men, I invite you to turn around and look outside the circle. Look who's got your back. These are the women and ladies that have been waiting for men to stand up, to express themselves, to share their feelings, to take ownership for their feelings. Witness them, witness you. And take that in. This is community, and we're doing it here in Chattanooga. We're proven to men and boys that it's not weak to speak and that real men feel. Round of applause. Thank you so much for all being here. Alrighty, so closing announcements. Again, I want to thank the City of Chattanooga, the Office of Community Health, for funding this and making it possible. I want to thank all of our community partners, amazing food vendors, Bridge City Community for bringing the shower, Naomi Sparkles for offering haircuts. This is what happens when community comes together and we support one another. So thank you all again. I look forward to seeing you all next year. I've been Brandon Clift.
Well, there you have it. Another powerful and unique episode of the Mankind podcast here, where you got to listen to some deep conversations from the panels, listen to some beautiful music from the heart, from our live recording artists. And yeah, I was very grateful for the opportunity to share this weekend to those of you who couldn't make it. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now, of course, we really want to make sure to shout out and thank those who made this event possible. So from my team, I want to shout out Deirdre Catlett from Be the Change Youth Initiative and her daughter, Sydney, who is the founder of Be the Change. Kneil Place from the Mental Health Association of East Tennessee, who was my right-hand man throughout this entire process. Phil Houston from Adventures in Recovery, an amazing therapist here in town, doing incredible work, taking people out backpacking and in nature. Kenny Andrzejewski, who is, man, just a great connector, someone who can always remind us of why we're doing what we're doing and who we need to connect with. So big thanks to Kenny. So just really grateful for the team. And James Dawson, of course, man, he was the guy who was not afraid to ask for money, the dollary dues. And he was out there raising much needed funds for this event. And he was, of course, the one who brought in all the people for the mass ice plunge. So James Dawson from the Ice Buddies, thank you as well. Big shout out to Hudson Brock with Aloe Hire for his generous donation, and Chad Prevost from the Big Think School. Thank you both for your donations. But the biggest thank you has to go to the City of Chattanooga Office of Community Health. They have been just strong supporters from the very beginning. They funded the entire event and made the whole thing possible. And it just goes to show like how powerful it is to know that your city, your government is behind you and these initiatives and want to remove barriers to make the transformations that we created on the weekend, to make those possible. So very proud to be a Chattanoogan, very proud to be, part of this amazing city where beautiful work is being done. And guess what? There's still a lot more work to do. Now, I want to shout out, of course, the incredible organizations that were a part of this initiative. We have Adventures in Recovery, the Mental Health Association of East Tennessee, Centerstone, the Family Justice Center, Bigger Than the Trail, the AIM Center, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Greater Chattanooga, the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, First Things First and Dad's Making a Difference, the Rise Up Cooperative, Semper Community Care, we got the Hamilton County Health Department, we got United Way of Greater Chattanooga, Project Return, Cherokee Health Systems, my guys, Men Who Chat, the Chattanooga Mankind Project local men's group here, Climb in Place, Joseph Gonzalez with Broken Hearts Cheesecake, Ian with the Oatmeal Experience, absolutely delicious. And of course, Sam Steadman with Smash Boys, he also represents Climb in Place. And the Bridge City community, for those that weren't at the event, we had a mobile shower there. So Miller Park, where we held the event, is a very common place for the homeless and the unhoused to get shade, to get water, to find a place to sit. And so Bridge City community came down with their community shower. They offered a chance to clean off for many of these people. And then we had Naomi Sparkles come in from Sparkle Salon to give haircuts, which was just really beautiful. Be Caffeinated, who provided the Java, who provided 10 gallons of coffee for our Courageous Conversations Over Coffee booth, and the Chattanooga Football Club, who set up a wonderful soccer ring for the kids to kick around and have a good time. So this has been an absolute pleasure being a part of this experience. It is just year one of what is going to be many years to come of transformations in Chattanooga for the boys and men in Chattanooga. And I think by now we can all agree that when the men and boys in our lives get the emotional support that they need, when they're encouraged to tap into their feelings, when they're shown that real men do feel and that it's not weak to speak about the things that are challenging us, we turn up as better fathers, as better husbands, as better brothers, as better uncles, as better sons, as better citizens. So that's why we're doing this work. Proud Chattanoogan, Brandon Clift, right here, signing off from the Mankind Project USA. Thank you so much for all the support, and thank you to those of you who have been listening into the Mankind Podcast, the show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove there's more than one way to be a man. Lots of love. See you next week, and we'll see you next year. This has been another episode of the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. We have been your hosts, Boyson Hodgson and myself, Brandon Clift, and we want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. If you want to find out more about today's guests and support them in their mission, you can find links to them in the show notes. Now, if you have found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, we are always grateful for a rating and review of the show on iTunes. Now, above all else, we've got to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you have made it possible for us to let men all over the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if something in this episode has touched you, then perhaps it is the call to action to get involved in men's work. With live trainings happening constantly and in-person trainings happening all over the world, the Mankind Project definitely has something for you. Now, if you've enjoyed the music in this episode and all of our episodes, be sure to check out Jim Donovan and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. And lastly, just know, what it means to me to be a man is completely different than what it means for you. That is the beauty of this journey. So if you are looking for guidance, support, and community as you begin to unpack and dive deeper into your men's work journey, then you know where to find us. Same place, same time, next week. Lots of love. We'll see you then.